Alright, we are finally back with another Magic the Gathering book. Last time we did Dominaria United, and this time we are moving on with Brothers War. And this might be the thickest book I have ever bound. And this is even taking into account some of the conversion books I've done, or any book, really all the sketchbooks. It is absolutely massive. As you can see here, I'm currently trying to separate every single signature so it's easier to follow around. Of course, before we can start poking holes and sewing, we need to fold the signatures correctly. And to do that, I take the 4 pages that creates a signature and I fold them all 4 at the same time. Normally I would do it individually, but I learned that folding all 4 pages in the signature together ensures that the crease fits way better, because all the creases fold tightly together, whereas if you fold them separately, they won't match up perfectly. So this is just a way of making your folds look nicer. It serves the same purpose. It's a little more tedious because you have more pages that can flop around a little, but overall I think it works, and it wasn't too bad. It didn't take too long to do, so yeah. Now that we got them folded, it's time to finally start doing something with them. In punching the holes of the signatures, I also punch all the signatures at once instead of 1 page at a time. And just like when it came to the creases in the fold, this is to ensure that the holes line up perfectly every time for sewing. It just makes it easier and it keeps it more neat, and it reduces the risk of missing out on a page or misplacing one in the middle after you've sewn. And so I'm doing basically 6 holes throughout them, and that's because I'm doing 1 in top and bottom, about 15 millimeters from the edges. At least that's the minimum. I don't remember if it was exactly what I did. And then 4 in the center for the strengthening bands. And the reason for the distance from the top is so a minimum specific is to ensure strength. Because if it's too close to the top, it's too easy to tear. However, if it's too far from the top and the bottom, it is too easy for the fold signature to just flop out to the side. You want something keeping them stiff together, but also holding them not breaking or anything. And of course, the 2 bands in the center we're going to be sewing in is just pure strength. There's nothing aesthetic, it's not to please, you're not going to be able to see it at all, but it adds strength without having to add in raised bands, which we do not want on this book. But talking about sewing, let's get to that. When it comes to sewing, I always go for the classic simple kettle stitch when I'm doing these hardcover books. When I'm doing a softcover, I usually tend to go a little more cross stitching-esque, but that's also where you can see the stitching, so it also has to look a bit aesthetically. Here we're not going to be seeing it, so I just want a kettle stitch. It's simple, it's kind of discreet, and it's strong enough and it works. And I chose these blue bands. Well, I didn't actually choose them. You would think I chose them because Brothers was about Ursa is the main character and our protagonist, and he's the one we're gonna follow, and he's blue mana aligned. But really, no, I chose them because they were the first ones I grabbed of the white bands I have. And the reason why I used the white ones and not the slim ones that I would use for bookmarks, it's purely because the slim ones just doesn't add any strength. You could argue, oh, but they're as wide as a raised band, so it should be fine, and it probably is. But I have these white ones and I like the stability they give, so that's why I use them. And also then I can save on the thin ones for doing bookmarks and other neat stuff with them. But so it's just sewing it all together. This is from before I made a what's called a sewing frame. So, and the same goes for the next magic book we'll be doing, but the next magic book we'll be doing will be done on a sewing frame. And I am so excited for that, because that's gonna be fun. But yeah, really that's all about that. That's it. That's all that's gonna happen here. We're just sewing back and forth. And yeah, I chose a pretty simple thread. I think it was the light brown thread I chose, or gray. I think no, it was my gray thread. And the reason why that was deliberate, that was because it fits with the book's story. it's not like you're gonna notice it really, but for those few times where I open up the book or my girlfriend or someone else does to look through it and they see it, they'll be like, oh hey, that thematically fits, and I'll be like, yes it does, and it looks good, right? And they can be like, yes. So hey, I'll take it. Anywho, that's about it for the sewing. Let's move on for the other parts of the book, because we got a lot of work to do. A large part about bookbinding is ensuring the structural integrity of the book is kept at all times, which means we'll often add things that will not be visible. For instance, we added the bands, but now we added a piece of linen to the back of the spine of the book. And again, well, technically you could argue you could see this in between signatures because it's not bound as tightly as I would have wanted it to be. But really, the idea is you're not going to be able to see it anyways when you're opening up the book, because you're not going to open the book that much. But yeah, so the idea behind this is, of course, again, to add strength and protect the spine from cracking and the stitching from breaking. And that's really all it is. And it's just a piece of linen that I glue on with PVA glue, nothing too fancy, but I wanted to show the entire process, so here's this part of the process. Now we get to one of my favorite parts about bookbinding, which is sewing in tail bands and headbands. I think the bands are first and foremost always one of the most gorgeous things in a beautifully hardcover book. And second of all, it's also, according to me, one of the most difficult things. Especially starting them is something I struggle a lot with. And I mean, I get better every time, but I honestly, it's so difficult for me, but hey, I like it a lot. I think it's fun and I think I improve. Now, the colors I've chosen for this are blue and black and the reason for that is because the colors specifically represent Mishra and Ursa. Black for Mishra and the Phyrexians that he joins, and blue for Ursa and his blue aligned mana that he has going before he becomes like the 5-colored guard character he turns out he was all along almost. So I was trying to represent those, and I think it works really well, and I think it's gonna work nicely with the paint scheme we're going for the cover. It's gonna add a little bit of interest in the color without like overbearingly, without being too standoffish. So I can't wait to show you that, and I can't wait for like to see the final book. But yeah, this is my favorite part. I had a lot of fun and I think they turned out beautiful. When it comes to doing the backing boards of this book, I always go for this 2mm cardboard stock that I bought specifically for bookbinding. Might have been overpriced because it doesn't need to be specifically for bookbinding, but hey, you live you learn. I didn't know if there was a specific difference there. As far as I can tell, there's not. So what's interesting is that I do 3 line type board. I do 2 like cover and front, well cover and back, and then a spine, and then I use this T tool to align them. And it's supposed to both align them horizontally and ensure the vertical distance is perfect. However, this is I think it's an 8mm, and that's way too much, man. It does not need to be that big. Like 2, 3, 4mm at most. So really, I end up. I don't think I'm gonna show it. I actually decide I'm not gonna show it because it doesn't matter. Because I tape these together to keep the distance, but end up cutting the tape and redoing the distance to be down to the I think 3mm I think is what I did instead, and it looks way better and it works better. And yeah, I just think the T tool I 3D printed is way too big. So quick overview, this is the layout of the cover itself and the leather that I cut in between shots because I was just cutting the leather really. And yeah, first we're gonna put it in with the front of the cover, just like that, and we're gonna tighten it up, and with magic we're pulling it out and it's perfect. Look at that. So it doesn't matter that the stamps are not perfect, I would prefer them to be, but it's fine. Next up we're gonna try and do the spine, and it's gonna work fine. Let's see. Ooh, here we go. And Yes, it works fine. It works how we wanted. And finally, we're gonna do the back of the cover. And it's, of course, this is not how I did it, but it visually makes sense. So there we go. Now we are ready to paint the cover. That's exciting. I said earlier in the video that I was gonna paint the cover, like all the details, in this gray color symbolizing the artifacts. Or at least I meant to say that. If I didn't, I don't recall right now. And evidently from these clips going on right here, that was a lie. And that's because I decided to have the like the 5 color mana symbols on the back be in their color, because I think that looks way more interesting. And it also, like, it thematically fits with it, but it just adds a little bit of punk to it. And given it's the back of the cover, I don't think it matters too much, but I still think that little color splash of color it adds is gonna go a long way. Now, of course, this could also ruin the book, but I don't think it does. And we'll see that at the end when it's all done. I think it adds a lot of interesting. I actually think it enhances the book. But, whoops, my mistake. But yeah, absolutely. I hope you enjoyed. I'm currently using the some acrylic paint specifically for leather called Angulus, and they're absolutely amazing, absolutely gorgeous. They're very vibrant, and I will, in this, you only see me give them one layer of paint, but I give them a couple just to be sure, because that's the recommendation from the bottles themselves. So I think they get 2 layers of paint, maybe 3 depending on how well I applied it. As you can see especially the white one needs more. So, but I think it looks actually beautiful. Now let's get to the spine and the front. From working on the back of the cover, we're now working on the front of the cover, where we are using not Angulus dye, but some other brand of leather paint I got in this silver, almost the silver sparkly gray color. It's absolutely gorgeous, but the quality of the paint is not nearly as good as the Angulus, but it's the only one I have, and it's still beautiful. It just needs multiple layers. And holy crap, painting the Magic the Gathering logo is difficult, especially the gathering part. Like, it was so difficult to stay within the lines. I don't think I did it perfectly, but that's okay. We're learning. We're always going to be improving. We're always going to try and learn. And that's my main focus of these videos, is always just to show, mainly for myself, progress, but also to, if anybody's interested in getting into this hobby, that you don't need to be an expert to do it. You don't need to have a natural talent. I have never really done anything creative until I started doing leather working, or bookbinding specifically. Now, the thing I think that turned out the greatest were, of course, the Brothers War title text, because, like, it's also the simplest, but it looks really, really good. In general, I think the cover itself looks so good, and I can't wait to color in the background, because I think it's gonna add so much more life and interest. Of course, I didn't show it for all of them, but all of them got multiple layers to make sure the paint really stands out. But now we're only missing the spine. Turned out sadly, when painting the spine, I didn't notice my camera ran out of space on it, so I only got footage for some of the painting. But as you can see, it's basically the same as the cover, except for we have the Planeswalker symbol instead of the title of the book. And really, it's just more of the difficulty. Like, it's so difficult to paint because it gets such fine detail, but it looks so good. And trust me, it's actually exactly how I want it to be. Well, of course, I wish I was better at painting, but it's how I want it to be looking. And I mean, you'll see it once we get to the finished part. I also think when we're coloring the background, I think you'll also see it there. So let's just go to that. Otherwise, yeah, more of the silver. Actually, this is the last of the silver you'll see, and it looks great. And so for painting in the background, I am of course not gonna show you every single little detail. We're gonna do some of the highlighting details around the cover itself. And I chose it to be this tan brown color because it matches the Dominaria United, and it also is a pretty neutral paint, so it will allow all the colors to stand out. And you're probably wondering, why didn't he paint the background first and then layer on top all the paint for the details? And the answer to that is yes, I realized that once I was done, that I should probably done the opposite way around, but I'm an idiot. Because yeah, it would 100% have looked better if I had painted the all the things first, and then for instance the green symbol where we're currently working on is just painted the green on top of the tan. Because I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. At all. Also, I think I should get a lamp, like a desk lamp next to when I do stuff like this, because it is a little dark, even though I have a quite powerful lamp in the room. But it's okay. Now, skipping ahead for a moment, we'll be skipping to when I have done a little bit of the planeswalker symbol all around. As you can see, I'm trying to get as close as possible without disturbing the symbol, and that's where I think it would just have been better if I had done the background first, but I think it's fine. Also, these small details here are very, very difficult. You can see I do overpaint, but you don't really see it in the final product. The only place where I think you really see it is the unevenness. Oh, I don't know if you could hear that, but it's storming outside. But it's the unevenness of the paint coloring, and I think if I could just have taken a sponge and go all over the thing, it would have been a nice and even layer. And I just think I would have been way better for the book. But I tell you, I am super satisfied with how it turned out, so I am not gonna be complaining here. But yeah, I mean, it's just getting up close, getting all around, and I figured I would start with that. And even if I was gonna keep doing it this roundabout way, I don't know if it's the right decision to start, like, paint all around all the detail. It would have been better to just work around, like work over from the back to the front or opposite, and like do everything instead of the details and then around. I think that might even have been better given this not so good solution. But yeah, also as you can see, the paintbrush, because there's a lot of paint in the start, it leaves darker splotches, and I really like, okay, it's fine. Once it dries up, you don't really see it unless you're me. Now, skipping over to doing the Brothers War symbol, it looks almost perfect. Like, as you can also see here, I would just want to highlight the silver color looks so goddamn beautiful. Like, it's so vibrant, it's so fun, and it fits the vibe so much. And generally, I think the book is just gorgeous, and I love having it on shelf. It makes me super happy every time I see it on my bookshelf, so I am not complaining. But yeah, let's skip ahead a bit again, because remember how I talked about the little text in Magic the Gathering? Here you can really see how it did not. Like, okay, it looks good enough, but I honestly think that with first of all, with better technique, and then with practice, it's gonna turn out great, because it's not unreasonably small. Also, I think just having a smaller, like a Warhammer's a miniature painting brush would work wonders for this, instead of this like meaty, like it's still a small brush, but it's not that small of a brush, so that might also fix it. But we'll never really know, do we? Well, actually we will, because I'll probably be getting a brush that's small just for this and other super fine detail work, because I think that would also elevate. Of course, you cannot replace skill with equipment. However, the correct tools will help you get better faster, or at least seeing your actual skill level, because sometimes using the wrong tool is just a hindrance. But yeah, I mean, look at a magic symbol. And I was actually working on this upside down, and the reason for that is because the Magic the Gathering text is all the way in the top of the book, and I started from the bottom working my way up. So that's why I'm painting upside down. It's not anything, I know some artists likes to go, oh, if you paint text upside down, your brain don't think of it as text, they think of it as lines and symbols. There's nothing like that behind it. It's literally just me being dumb. But yeah, anyways, let's get some started from the bottom. it is finally time to attach the boards to the leather. And I do this by placing it in, and as you can see, the tape is way close, like the boards are way closer to each other than before. And then I just put in some glue and I use a finger or a brush or whatever to spread it out. I try to limit how much glue I use because I tend to use way too much compared to what's needed. But then I just, here I use a brush and so like I use both basically. And then I just glue in all 3 pieces. Now, once that is dried up, or while it's drying, I don't remember because it really doesn't matter. I like to use these corner pieces to cut the corners. And that's just to get a nicer fold. And like it's not perfect for me. Like I don't get a perfect fold, but I get a better fold. And it just helps me out a little bit. And then finally, when it comes to gluing the edges in, I don't get how people can just fold them in and they stay. For me, they just let go right away. I don't know if they wait until the glue is like half dry or something, or if they cheat in some way. But I have to do that, either hold it or I use 2 strips of leather on each side of the fold, and then I attach clips all along down. And the reason why the strips of leather stay is just to prevent markings, and it works. It takes forever, but it works, so I'll probably keep doing that. Because I don't like when I can see the markings. I don't have video of that because it just took forever to do. And then we're almost done actually, we just need the end sheets. Now it's time to look at the end sheets, and what you see here is some beautifully marbled end sheets I made. At least I think they're beautiful. However, it's not going to be those we're going to put in the end, because I don't know what I did, but I ruined them in the glue work. I think I was too impatient in letting the glue wait, so I prodded the paper too much and it started tearing, instead of just being patient and wait. But so I found some other marble end sheet I had, and equally fits because the color scheme is this blue, black, white, like the black of course for the Phyrexian, blue for Ursa, and then this white gray color is basically gonna be the artifacts, the power stones after, and yeah, that's about it. And I had another pair of end sheet, not specifically made for this, but I could use for it. So it fits when we're gonna take a look at the final product, but still saddens me a little because I like these a lot more. I think it turned out beautiful. You can see a video where I made them on the channel. That's probably gonna be a link in the description if I'm not too dumb. But really, they're just glued in, and I try not to, when gluing them to the text block, to use too much glue. Because rather just want to use, 5 centimeters or so. And then for the gluing it onto the board. And I think one of the reasons here is, I talked about it before, is I use too much glue. When gluing into a board, I want to cover the entire thing in glue. And I just think I used way too much glue. And that made the paper too fragile. And then with me being impatient, of course. But I'm learning. And see, I also spent a lot of time trying to place them, and I think if I hadn't spent that much time, it might have been better too. But yeah, I try, and look at that. It looks so beautiful. But the other one I ended up using is also very beautiful. So, all in all, it's okay. It's not the worst. And yeah, just working on trying to get it to fit. Not really sure what I'm doing. I'm never really sure what I'm doing when I reach the end of the books here, because I'm always, like, the closer I get to finish a book, the more nervous I get and the less I want to work on it, even though I really want to finish them. But I'm glad I finished this one, and you get a sneak peek of the cover that we'll take a look at in a second, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now let's take a look at the final book, and then afterwards do some retrospection. So let's take this a bit slower and a bit more live, you can say. So when looking at the cover here, we can see the splotchy work here, and that's what I talked about if I just have done all of it in one go. So when we're looking at big places like this here, it gets a nice even coating, and when looking at the back, it's the same we see with the big areas, they look more even. But let's take it one step at a time. Let's start out here. I love the paint. I think the paint looks absolutely gorgeous. if I were gonna change anything, I would take the Magic the Gathering and just move it down by like 5 centimeters. So just like dook. I think that would make it look better, because we don't need the air here, we need the air up here. And same goes for the Brothers War, just move it up slightly so we get a bit more air. Of course, we could also make the center logo here larger, which would also work, but I think just moving the text would do all that's needed. Looking at the spine is gorgeous, look at it. So I decided only to paint the Magic and not the Gathering here. Technically it still says that if you look, but it's just because it was too fine detail. I think just writing Magic, it is fine. It's a bit low profile. It's the text logo for Magic the Gathering. It's perfectly fine. And we have up here, and if we look a little here, we can see like the bleeding of the background paint onto the silver. So again, a lot of the things being fixed. Now here comes some things we want to fix, because it's wonky. And that's because I didn't in the stamps have a arrow telling me which is up and down. I just have circles, and then I try placing them as best as I could. That has been remedied, and hopefully for the next book we'll be doing in this franchise series, it'll be fine. Opening it up onto a random page, it looks fine. Like, it's gorgeous, beautiful text, the pictures with the name of the card that it's from and the artist. It's absolutely gorgeous. So this was the in-sheet design I ended up going with. We're gonna talk a little about it. So we have the blue and we have the white, and then we have a little bit of red. And so the blue is because both Mishra and Ursa, as I recall, are actually blue. And then we have white to symbolize like the purity of the world that they're gonna be ruining. And red is the conflict. And if we look here, all of this is just, to me, just sloppy work. I tried cutting it off and it just didn't look good. So there are many things I would change, but I honestly think, given I had some problems here at the end, I think it turned out perfectly good. I am absolutely satisfied with this work here. Again, the edge here is not very nicely cut and stuff, but honestly, for being the second in the Magic the Gathering franchise books we're doing, I think it's good. And let's take a look at the headband. It looks beautiful, and the tailband actually even more beautiful. So that's gonna be it, except for, well, almost it. We have one more thing I want to do, because I talked negatively about this one, and it's something we as people who create stuff tends to do a lot. So what I want to do is do a little new section, which is retrospective. So we're gonna place this book here. I'm gonna quickly get up. And with movie magic, it's as if I just sat down, because we're gonna be looking at the Dominaria United book. And if we take a look at the Dominaria United, Dominaria United is the very first book I bound for the YouTube channel. It's also done with foil leaf instead of paint. And if we look, it's like almost blurry, because it's faded, it's ruined so much. The spine is not that good. The symbol here is upside down. And the back is also sloppy looking. So if we take it step by step. Of course, fun enough, this one is way larger than this one. It's fine. I actually prefer the smaller than the big one, because here it gets almost into the bend itself. So I would move it down, keep the small size. I like the Dominaria United. It is crooked, it's straight here. The symbol here is larger. I like the smaller symbol here. Again, it's also a situation that technically this height fits with this, so this one is just a bigger logo in design. If we take a look at the spines, here I tried doing the Gathering and it's just a blob, and then it's a Magic that's really faded, and not very nicely looking. And then if we look down here, I kind of fucked up at the end here, because we have up here, we have the symbol, and then we have the planeswalker symbol, and we want the set symbol in the top and the planeswalker symbol in the bottom, and I messed up. I even turned the planeswalker symbol wrong. So technically what I was trying to go for was doing this, which would mean the textbook would be upside down. And then finally at the back, it's, especially the blue is still a little crooked, the green is not, so this one is fine, but I like it better with the color. I think it adds a bit more life and personality. I wanted to do a bookmark on this one, like I've done here. I forgot, that's the reason. And then finally, and that's not really a knock on the book, that's more me not doing it at the time. Here we only have like monocolored tailbands, and even here I was struggling, and that's thicker paper. But I think overall it's nice. I'm pretty satisfied with both. I think both of them are absolutely gorgeous books, and I think they represent very well my skill level. But I also think it's a great exercise to go back to your older work and take a look. Like for instance, we talked about the cornering. Like, if you look at the corners here, these corners are so, like, they're not perfect, but they look decently nice. Then we take a look at this corner here. Like this, what the hell? We can even see the cardboard if we look. And then we of course have on the back here a perfect corner, so and then another kind of perfect corner, and then a horrible corner. Whereas here we have 3 relatively good corners and 1 horrible. So I think I moved far between these here. I definitely think I have improved, and this is a good exercise in seeing it. None of these are perfect. None of these are exactly where I want to be at all. But we're getting there. And that's the exercises. Take a look. Remember, where did you go from? I went from this to this, and it's so much better already. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this. If you liked it, leave a like and a comment. If you want more, subscribe. Even if, to be honest, even if you don't want more, there will be more, because I'm already making the next Magic the Gathering book, and I'm preparing for the next Magic the Gathering book, which will be Rivals of Ixalan. But that's still a while away. I'm having some problems, and oh yeah, right, on this one I also did head and tail bands, and they are kind of floating and uneven and crooked, and like they're nice because they're super tight, but that's about it. So yeah, not perfect either. But yeah, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. My name's Lightning, and I'll be signing out. Goodbye.